Hey there CNCers, Scott here again for Sienci Labs. Today we have a little Valentine's Day video edition for you. We'll be using the LongMill and LaserBeam to create some beautiful wooden earrings for your favorite Valentine. Can you feel the love? You expect me to sing it?
Can you feel the love tonight?
That's all you're getting. Let's go. Okay, so I lied just a little. This is a video about Valentine's Day, but probably not in the lovey-dovey way that people are thinking about. We wanted to make a video for people who are looking to make some money with their LongMill or, looking to start a bit of a side hustle. So how does Valentine's Day, come into all of this? Creating products for specific holidays is a brilliant way to sell things. The design of this particular project is not hearts and cupids, but what is a great seller on Valentine's Day? Jewelry is. That's not to say you can't create hearts and lovey-dovey themed things. We're just trying to get you to open your horizons, expand your horizons, and maybe think outside the box just a little to maximize the results on your end. There are lots of people out there who would love to be able to make the things that we can make, but for one reason or another, they can't. But you can. Those people are potential customers. We are over in Lightburn, and I'm gonna try and burn through this. I didn't even mean to say that. I'm gonna try and run through this pretty quickly. Grab your material. If you don't already have something, there is no set size for what we're doing. We're making some, we're making some earrings. It doesn't matter what size your material is. I happen to be fortunate enough to have a piece of scrap laying around. This was literally an offcut, and it works out nicely for my earring sizing, so that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to try and maximize this. So the way that we're going to run through this is I'm going to design everything in Lightburn, and then I'm going to export some of the parts of Lightburn to bring into Vcarve to cut out my earring. So Lightburn will take care of the burning side of things, and I'll save a gCode file for that, and Vcarve will take care of the cutting out side. Let's roll. So here we are. I need to find my mouse. There it is. I'm going to draw my material size. This is what it actually is, and I'm going to start it from 0, and I'm going to make it 11 inches long and 1.625 inches, whoopsie, 1.625 inches tall. There we go. I'm going to do that because I'm going to use that as a guide in Vcarve, and it's going to help me line everything up so it works out nicely. I'm going to draw the shape of my earring. I wanted some teardrop kind of shaped Mandela style ones for the design. So I've already obviously worked this out. I've done this project a couple times now. So I know what I'm doing for my dimensions. I started off with 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch. And then this part I'm going to be kind of arbitrary on. I kind of wanted to make it a little more teardropped. And then I converted it to a path, which allows me to then go over to this handy dandy little guy right here. Where am I? Right there. And when you click on that, you can see that it allows me to edit some of the verts. So I'm just going to grab this middle one, hold shift, and stretch it up-ish. I don't want it to be right to the very edge. And with that, I've created the shape of my teardrop earring. Easy peasy, right? This is not a super complex project, but there's a couple, technicalities here and there. So I'm going to move it over a little bit. I don't want it right at the edges of everything. Done. Now I do have that on. Which layer am I going to put these on? Because I'm going to export these. So I'm going to leave the outline of the earrings when I duplicate them and the outline of my material on one layer, and then I'll put the design on another one. So we're going to import my design. I have an Illustrator file, and you can see it's pretty ornate. It's pretty detailed. It's actually very impressive how detailed this laser can get with what we're doing. So I'm going to move it over here, and it is not on its own layer. So let's just check it on its own layer. Oop, right there. So there we go, and design offset. I don't know why I have that called. That's a weird one. Let's call this CNC outlines, because that's what those are going to be. And let's just rename this guy the laser design. Boom, there we go. Oh, look at that. My settings are already about what they need to be. Now you can see over here that I have the output turned off for that because I don't want them to be able to burn anything, and when I save my gCode file, I want them gone. So that's we'll talk about that in a minute. We're going to scale my design down because that's obviously ginormous. Oh, and you know what? If I hold down Control, it'll scale it from the center of it, which is more like what I'm looking for. So let's do something like that, and then we'll move it over just a little bit. Cool. Now, something that you may or may not be able to see well, I can see it, so you can see it because you're looking at my screen, is lines like these are not going to burn the way you want them. You want it to be as solid as possible. So I'm just going to, through the magic of experimentation, I learned that if I ungroup this once, and I come over here to this Boolean wonderful operation right here, that you'll see those, actually here, let's zoom in on it, because there's a couple of them. There's some there and there is some over here. If you watch this spot right here in particular, you will see that that disappears when I go to this Boolean. Goodbye. Now I have nice solid lines everywhere. There's no weird little jogs or overlaps. It's going to make the laser, it'll carve it that much nicer, or engrave it that much nicer. Next thing we're going to do, we've got our outline of our actual earring. We've got our design in place, scaled, and basically in the right format that we want it to be in. I'm going to take my earring outline and I'm going to offset it outwards. And I'm going to do that by a very tiny amount. You can see right there. I'm going to hit OK. And I'm doing that because when you go from engraving with the laser and using the offset function with the CNC, your lineup may not be perfect. And this is just one kind of, like, I would call a little cheat, easy way to make sure that you get your design cut out, as I'm going to make the laser engrave outside of the actual part that I'm going to cut out. So if it does happen to be off by a little bit when I do offset, I'm still getting the full design right to the edges. That's all this is. So we have our offset line right there. We are going to grab our Mandela style design, and then I'm just going to use this Boolean operation. I'm going to intersect, and kabam, we have the laser design done and the CNC lines pretty much done, ready to roll. But you're saying, Scott, there's only one earring and most people wear two. You are correct. This is where this just goes exponentially faster. So I'm going to kind of center the whole thing there. I'm going to hit Control D. It's going to duplicate it. I'm going to hold Shift. Whoopsie. Uh-oh, I got to undo that. Sorry, that's my bad. Redo. There we go. Control D, duplicate, and then I'm going to click on my left and hold my Shift, drag it over. I now have a duplicate. I'm going to go up here to my mirror selection, and ba-bam, two earrings designed, done, basically ready to go. Now we get into kind of the let's maximize our material side of things. I have 11 inches of material, and that's not taking up 11 inches, so I can probably squeeze out an extra pair or maybe an extra one by rotating this, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab both, I'm going to rotate, I'm going to hold Shift while I'm doing it, and that will allow me to tuck it in just a little tiny bit tighter. Maybe I'm not getting any extra out of that. Maybe I am. I'm not going to go out and measure, but it's pretty close. When you're doing multiple repeat designs like this, something to keep in mind is if you are cutting things out, make sure you leave yourself enough space in the middle there, so you can always go in and just draw a little, where'd it go? You can always draw a little circle, and I know that my 16th inch bit, which is what I'm going to use to cut these out, is 0.0625 by 0.0625. And then I can move it down in there and see. So it's pretty close. I might want to bump that over just a little wee bit, but it should be able to handle that. So we're going to get rid of that because we don't need it. Goodbye. And then we're just going to create a whole bunch of copies of this. And you could use the array tool over here. If you're doing a whole bunch, you might want to do a grid or an array. Quite honestly, this is such a small little kind of easy to bang out project. I'm not worrying about it. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to drag it over. I'm going to make sure there's enough space between them, and then I'm going to grab everything. Whoopsie, I don't need the outline. Where'd that rectangle come from? He came from nowhere. I'm going to get rid of him. We don't need him. I'm going to grab them all, Control D, duplicate, drag, Shift, and I'm just going to make as many pairs as I can fit to fit on my material. It's pretty basic, but you want to maximize your material as much as you can, because the more you maximize your material, the less you waste and the more money you can make. So those two are not going to make it. I can see that that one's pretty close, so I have the choice of trying to go back and squeeze all these together a little bit more to fit that extra pair on, or I can just say I'm not worried about it for today's sake, because I'm honestly not that worried about it, and I think you guys understand. Maximize your material. I'm going to delete them so I don't have to worry about it, which is probably going to bring up nesting. Some people are going to say, hey Scott, why don't you use the nesting options within Lightburn and Vcarve to do these? Two reasons I'm not using it today for this project. One, it's so basic and so easy just to drag and drop them. You can array them. nesting for me isn't really necessary. If you don't know what nesting is, it's basically taking your design and maximizing the material you have and minimizing the waste material. Lightburn and Vcarve both have it built in. If you're interested in learning more about nesting, let us know. Drop a line in the comments and we'll do our best to get a video out about that. And while you're down there commenting about nesting, maybe give us a like and a subscribe if you think that we're doing a good job here. Laser design is done. We have it on its own layer. I know through experimentation that with my particular maple here, that's kind of a light color, I went a little bit slower. So my speed was 30 millimeters a second. My power was still 100 and I had dip switch 5 on there. All of these other things were just standard. It is in the mode, the fill mode, as it were. So that's almost it. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to turn those off. So all I want to save for my G-code is what's on my screen right now, which is my laser design. So we are going to go save G-code. It says it might be out of bounds. I'm going to continue anyways, and then I already have it in here. So we'll call it laser design 2, just so that people see me hitting the save button. There we go. Save your file. Oh, I was about to say Lightburn is done, but I lied. Lightburn's not done. We are going to turn everything back on. And this, as far as I know, doesn't matter. If you have the show and output things deselected up there, and you go to export, if you have those switched off in the cut layer menu, they will still export. So that design is still going to show up in Vcarve when I import it. It's not a big deal. We'll just throw it on a layer and delete it. For now, this is what I'm exporting to Vcarve, the outlines of each earring and the outline of my material, so I can line it up and cut them out. Easy peasy. So I'm going to call that lines exported from Lightburn 2. We'll save it. And now Lightburn is done. We are going to set up our file. This, again, is fairly straightforward. I'm going to make it the same dimensions as, whoopsie, it would really help if I could type. There we go. I'm going to make it the same dimensions as my Lightburn file was, with the exception of I'm going to make it 0.08 inches thick. Material surface, okay. So this is now set up exactly like my Lightburn file was, which I'm now going to go and I'm going to import what I just exported from Lightburn. Exported, and I'll even, yeah, I guess I'm going to use that one. That's fine. Open. And you can see that, like I said, even if you have them turned off, the output turned off in Lightburn and you export it, it still brings in the design. It's a little annoying, but it's a quick workaround. We are going to grab all of the outlines for the earrings. That's not the outline for the earring. I'm sure there's probably a better way to do this, if I'm being honest. I didn't spend a ton of time experimenting with it, but for how minor an issue this is. Now, again, if you're doing a ton of these, I would probably find a better workaround, or just the proper way to do it in the first place, so you don't have to do workarounds. Either way, we're going to grab all these outlines. Here we go. We're almost done. That one. And then we're just going to move them to, I don't want them to go to a layer. Sure, we'll throw them on layer 1. There we go. So now if we come up here to layer 1, you can see that on layer 1, we have the outlines, and on layer 2, we have the design, which all we have to do is Control-A, delete, goodbye, turn on our layer 1, and now we have all of our outlines. The super handy part about this is if you select everything, because we drew that material dimension in Lightburn, I select everything, hit F9, it centers it to my material. When Lightburn goes and lasers its design, and then we go to cut it on the CNC, because we've done this, we've got it set up 2 birds, 1 stone, easy peasy, pretty much done. We're going to add a toolpath to this. At this point, we don't need the outline, but I'm just going to leave it for giggles. We're going to select all of our, whatchamacallits, the earring outlines. We're going to make a profile toolpath. And you can see, because I've already done this, it's already set up. We're going to cut right through 0.08 inches. We're going to use a 16th inch down cut. We're going through such thin material that the 16th inch has no issue with this. And I was trying to maximize my space between them, so that helps. You can see my settings, pass depth is fairly small. You could bump that up a little bit, but not substantially. I fed them fairly low and slow. I wasn't in a rush. You can speed this up in gSender. You can go a little bit faster if you want to. I'm going to leave it as is because it worked out really nice. I'm going to say the outside of these, and I'm going to add ramps. And then I'm going to call this earrings profile 0.0625 for my holy jumping, 0625. There we go, down cut. So that's my bit, and I'm going to hit calculate. I'm going to preview it, and you're going to see it cuts through everything leaves it nice. We are using CA glue-in tape to tape this down so I don't have to worry about tabs or this moving. My experiment showed me that this actually holds really nicely. We're gonna make some little holes so that the little dangly has a place to go through. It's a lot easier. A 16th inch is actually like bang on. It's just enough space for them to move, but not too crazy. So we are going to make a circle. It is just over a 16th. So if you do 0.0625, which is a 16th, and I go, I know I'm not going metric on this, I'm sorry, everyone's gonna have to convert. It will say, it won't actually calculate it because it's right on. If you go just a tiny bit over, it has no issue. So draw your circle, figure out where you want it to go. Quite honestly, this does not matter. I centered it by using the align tool, and then I centered the one to the other. There you go, you saw it move over. And again, you can move this up or down however you want. That seems all right. The only tricky one about this was making sure that the height of where the hole was equal on both earrings. So for that, it was nothing crazy. I grabbed both. I went to move it. I hold Alt and Control to make a copy and to constrain it. I rotate it 180 degrees. I use the align tool. Whoopsie. Yep, that'll be all right. And then I centered them to that, and you can see vertically it's not exact, but we can always go like that and it moves that one. So what I did instead of worrying about that was just, oopsie, come on now. Oh, did I move it? Nope. Holy jumping. Come on now. I use the align tool to align the first one rotated to the second one that I want it to be aligned to. And unfortunately, you cannot use the vertical one because it'll center the hole to the piece as well. So I just deselect the original one, bump it down just a little bit. And I mean, we're talking close enough here. If anybody walks up to whoever gets these earrings and says it's off by like a thou, I'll give them a thou. I won't actually give them a thou. I don't have that money. Here we go. That's upside down. That is good to go. I'm going to hold shift. It will deselect the one that I didn't have. I can delete it, and now I can just go forward and make a whole bunch of copies, which, if I'm being honest, now that I'm doing this process for the third time, I probably should have just made the hole first and then rotate it. Can I do that part again? Damn. No? Yes?
You can. Do the best. Do the best to the audience, not to me.
Oh, no, you know why I can't do that? No, I don't want to do it that way, because if I do it that way, then the spacing might change between these, and I need these to line up to the laser. So the way I did it, I'm going to have to explain that's why I did it that way. I knew there was a reason I did it that way.
Okay. Go ahead. It's fine.
Sorry, bud. So I actually just had a nice outside dialogue with myself. I said, why didn't I create the hole and the outside of the earring and then just multiply it and like make a whole bunch of them? And then I realized because it needs to line up with the laser. So that's why I didn't do it that way. And, you know, again, the way my brain works may not be the way your brain works. So you may have to design these a different way. Regardless, you want the laser file to line up with your CNC file. However you get there, this was not a big deal for me to basically take these guys, right? And then we move them and we constrain with Alt and hold Control, move them over. I'm going to do that a bunch of times, and then I'm just going to go back and align them. Again, thinking on my feet, there's probably a better way of doing this to get exactly what you need, but I care more about the laser stuff lining up with the CNC stuff than I do about these holes being perfect. So it only takes me an extra second just to go through and align everything. Oh, you're moving the wrong thing. This needs to go to that. There we go. Select one, select the other one, align them. Again, if you had to do a bunch of these, you probably want to set up as a bit more of a, you know, a smart template than the way I'm kind of winging through it, but there we go. They're pretty close, and it only takes an extra second. The point is, make a file, make it as easy as you can to duplicate it and to maximize your material. It's kind of like I tell my kids, do as I say, not as I do. But you guys aren't my kids, so here we go. There we go. We have all of that ready to go. I am going to do a separate profile pass for the holes because I want those to go on the inside. So there we go. It's still going all the way through. It's still using the same bit, but this time I want to go inside. I still will add ramps, and I will call this earrings actually, I'm just going to call it earrings holes. Come on. 0.0625 down cut. I'm going to hit calculate. I'm going to preview that so you can see what I did, and there you go. So we'll now just simply click on both of our toolpaths, save our toolpaths. We can say visible to 1 because, oh, is the order right? The order is not right. I would do the holes before the profile just in case they do want to move. So do the little holes first, cut out the profiles, right order, save toolpaths. I'm going to go to my gCode folder, and I probably have it in here already. Oy, oy, oy. Let's go to tutorial. And we'll just give this, you know, we'll save right over this one. No, we're not. Are we? We're going to call it number 2 because I seem to be on that. We'll call it number 2, and then we don't have to worry. Save. That's it. Lightburn's done. Vcarve is done. Now we got to put this all into practice, and oh, we're going to have to talk about the offset function with the gSender. So let's go do that right now. The trickiest part of this project, I would think for most people, would be the setting up the offset for the LongMill and LaserBeam. So it's not terrible. I'm going to run you through the steps right now. First thing you want to do is obviously open up gSender, and then you're going to go over here to the settings little cog. And if you haven't already done so, you are going to go to your spindle laser, and you're going to make sure that your spindle laser is toggled on. ACES. So the basis of this is that you're going to load in a V-bit. We're going to poke a little hole in a piece of tape. That's going to tell us where our router sits in its mount. And then we're basically going to flip on the driver for the laser. We're going to move it around until we line it up. And that's going to give us our XY offset so that when we are flipping back and forth, that you can actually laser something, hit the offset, whoop, it moves it automatically to where it needs to be, and you don't have to guess, and you can repeat things if you need to. So we're going to load in any sort of pointy bit that we can poke a hole in a piece of tape. It doesn't matter which one you use. It just allows you to be that much more accurate. There we go. This only matters so you can see what we're poking, so it doesn't really matter where it goes as long as you have it there. And then you're going to drive your machine over the piece of tape and drop it down until it pokes a hole. You're gonna have a hard time seeing that, but it did make a tiny little pinprick right there.
Yeah.
There.
Okay. Right there.
After you've poked the hole in the piece of tape with your bit, you can pull your bit out. Just make sure that you hit 0 all. It doesn't matter if it's 0 all, but your X and your Y have to be zeroed. Otherwise, when you move this, you're not going to know where you started from. So there is your 0 with your bit. Now we're going to move our laser over to that point, and that will tell us what our offset is. That's all this is. I'm going to ballpark move it over. Pretty close. It's not quite what I'm looking for height, so I'm going to take my bit out. Oh, I used the wrenches like I'm supposed to. That's pretty close. I already know what my offset is because I've already obviously done this. When you go to gSender for the first time, it's going to read 0 and 0. So 0, 0, gSender, you're good to go with that. I'm going to exit out of here. We're going to turn on our laser mode. We have our hole poked in our tape. We have zeroed our machine. We have moved our laser back to roughly where that hole in the tape is that we poked. Now we are going to go into gSender. We are in laser mode, you can see here. We have our power turned down to 1%. We can probably turn the dip switch down to 1. We are basically just going to flip on the driver and line this up quickly so that we can figure out what our actual offset is. Oh, that's pretty close. That's it. All right, so we flipped on our driver. We fine-tuned our movement to where the laser that shot out was in line with the poke hole in the tape. That tells me about what my offset is. According to this, it's 2.560 inches on my X. My Z doesn't matter, right? That's what you have to remember when you're doing the offset. It's only the X and the Y. So now we're gonna go back into gSender. We're gonna go up to our settings cog, our spindle laser tab, and we are going to enter in our offset. Now yours might have some Y as well, mine does not. So I'm gonna put in 2.560. Yep, there we go. And then I'm going to cross it out. And now we know that our offset is 2.560 for mine. Yours might be a little bit different. Whatever your number is, now you know what the offset is. Here's where there's a bit of a process that I follow, and it seems to make it easier to follow how to do this in what order. And I just remembered one more quick hint. The way my process works, I'm engraving with the laser first and then using the CNC. So you actually have to add in a minus on your offset. Otherwise, the way the CNC moves, you'll see in the next process where I run you through the list, it won't work. So add a minus in if you're doing engraving and then carving. I'm not saying so. Anyways. There's no necessarily right or wrong way. I'm going to put the bit that I'm going to use into carve. There are probably those who would advise against carving with your laser on. For the sake of this, just to make my life easier, I'm going to leave my laser on. Recommended to take it off while you're carving because you don't want to get any dust and debris on the lens. It'll just shorten the lifespan of it. But having said that, I'm going to just find my 0 now. So this is kind of the start of the process that I try to follow to make my life marginally easier when doing this. So we're going to throw the bit in, 16th inch down cut for this. You're going to use what you need to use, wrenches, and there we go. You could turn your laser on to try and find your 0 point on here. I would rather use my bit to find my 0 point. It's just a little bit easier than, you know, flicking the laser on and off. So that's what we're going to do. We've got our 0 for our bit now. That's good. We already know what our offset is. We've already punched it in. Now we're going to focus our laser on our Z, and that's no different than doing it anywhere else. Just make sure that if you're using a sacrificial piece, whatever your final height, actually, whatever the final height of your material is, make sure that's what you're focusing to, because if you focus to this height and then add your material to it, it's not going to be in the same focus. So make sure you are zeroing to the same height as your final material. We found our 0 on our material with our bit. We are now going to have to use our offset in order to move the laser, because we're going to start with the laser. So I move it up just to be a little bit safe. We've got our 0 set, we focused our laser at the right height, and it's set there. So even though it moves it back up, we'll be able to move it back down without any problem. So I'm going to give it a couple of shots. And with my laser mode, we're going to flick the switch, and you'll see that it changes up here to the offset that we punched in. And I'm going to say go to XY0, and it will move the laser that way. Beauty, exactly what it's supposed to do. So we told the router bit 0 was here, we offset, there's a laser. So now I'm going to go to Z0, and now we have everything zeroed out with the laser ready to go, our offset set, and we're going to load our file and start burning this thing. I changed my mind. I said earlier that I was going to be a bad boy and I was going to leave the laser on, but realistically it's 2 screws or 2 bolts and, you know, 10 seconds of my time. So I'm going to be good and I'm going to remove it. That's simple. Let's follow the rules. We're going to use that offset function that we talked about earlier over here in OBS, not OBS, in gCenter. So if you go to the laser mode and you switch it off, you will see that your Y value will change. Ta-da! All we have to do is hit go to XY0. You'll see the machine move back to where we set the offset. Yay! We will re-zero our Z for our router bit, and that's all there is for the offset. It is that simple. Come on now. Offset taken care of, ready to carve. Let's dig in. Prepare yourself, if this doesn't go well, that Scott's gonna be very unhappy. Those are definitely. There you have it, many pairs of stunning handmade, machine-made earrings for your loved ones. Or for sale. Or for both. Now you're really in the good books. See? We told you it was a good idea to buy a LongMill. This is just another one of the endless numbers of projects you can run to help make some money on the side. Or make incredible gifts. Or both. To be honest, that's exactly what I did, and I still do. As always, we really do appreciate your support and spending some time with us. We hope you learned some new things today. If you like what you're seeing and you feel like we've earned your time, please give us a like and a subscribe to keep up to date with all the brilliant things we're posting. Thanks again for hanging out. We'll see you around the CNC. See, this I'll give you because this is funny. Are they hanging this way? So now that I've made my funny noise. So